I'm going to try and keep my presentation down to 5 minutes, okay? Because you've all been very patient. We're a little behind schedule because of technical problem. So first of all, reasons to take equity out of your property. I mean, I call the piece how to take equity out of your property. First, I should talk about why you might want to do that. First of all, if you have equity in property, you're retired, you have a lower income, then you may need to access that equity. I'm going to also talk a little bit about how equity has grown in properties, because I know people are very nervous about the idea of taking out equity out of the property, and for good reason. You do not want to be wasteful about it, but there are good reasons to consider it when it's necessary. So funding your retirement is one. Paying off higher interest credit cards or other debts is another. Home repairs, renovations. You see times people have all kinds of equity in their house, maybe no mortgage. The house needs work. It could be dangerous. And as you get older, you may need some things. You may need the house retrofitted for you if you're in a position where you have a mobility issue or something. So that's another reason. Education for yourself, or maybe for a child or family member. Help an adult child purchase the property. This is a great one. You've got equity. You can convince your kids to move out from Toronto up here to the beach. Help them out. They'll save a fortune on the property. Who can afford a house in Toronto? So that's another good. Travel. You got to live, folks. Right? You got to live. You got to enjoy your life. You've worked hard for many years. To invest, if you have a business or something that you want to invest in. Pay property taxes. I wanted to mention this because my grandfather had a saying once. He said, somebody crying with a loaf of bread under their arm. Property taxes, relative to the value of your house and relative to the way house prices have increased, even over the last 5 or 10 years, it's a very, very small thing. Obviously, we want to make sure that our council who are making decisions are being prudent. I believe they are making careful decisions. So beyond that, it's like, you do what you got to do. And so there's different ways to take equity out of your property. First of all, is traditional mortgage, where you qualify based on income and credit if you have the income to support that. You might be self-employed. I work with a lot of self-employed borrowers. Sometimes self-employed borrowers are not reporting a lot of income because they're either keeping their money in their company or they may be writing off everything under the sun. I don't work for Revenue Canada. The lenders that I work with, they just want to make sure that you can service the debt. So what they'll look at for self-employed borrowers is often they'll look at bank statements. They just want to see that your cash flow. They're not going to ask for tax returns because tax returns are often not a good indication of your ability to service the debt. They're designed often, sometimes, especially if you're self-employed, with minimizing your taxes. Net worth mortgages. Net worth mortgage is one where maybe you have diminished income, but you have some liquid assets. You don't necessarily want to use all your liquid assets to live, but the lender will consider those right? So they won't ask you to cash them. They'll just want to know that you've got a fallback. And the last thing is the reverse mortgage, which is a mortgage where you don't have to make payments at all. And some people might say, oh my goodness, how could I take a mortgage and not make payments? All the equity in my house is going to disappear. Well, so I have a little chart here, which is a little bit small, and this is my last slide, but you can take a photo or I can share it with you later if you want to see. But essentially, I have two things that I want to convey. The first is that this is Wasaga Beach home prices. This is what I was able to find online. 2014, average price of a home, $300,000. Current price of a home, 2023. This is 9 years later. Average price is $724,000. So people have done well, and this is not just Wasaga Beach. This is pretty much Canada wide, I would say. And so there's equity there for sure. Now, so what happens if you were to do a reverse mortgage for $100,000? What would it look like if we looked 15 years out and you said, well, what's going to happen to all of my equity? Is it going to disappear? Well, so this chart shows you what will happen. There's certain assumptions built in, but if we took 724 as your current value, because that's the average house right now in Wasaga Beach, current value 724, and we assume a 3% increase in value per year. I will tell you that if anybody here is in real estate or knows real estate, I think that probably if you look back over the last 30 or 50 years, on average, real estate goes up about 6% per year. And I don't think that's going to be getting any less because there's 500,000 new people coming in to Canada every year. And about half of those are landing in the GTA, and then they move out to the outlying areas. And that's one of the key things that keeps the demand up. So if you assume conservatively 3% per year, your house is going to be worth in 15 years, $1.1 million. That's a conservative 3% per year. Okay. Now, what about your mortgage? If you took out a reverse mortgage and never made a single payment on that mortgage in 15 years, you would owe $311,000. And there's certain assumptions in there about the mortgage rate that you're paying. And right now, the rates are high. So I believe that it will actually be considerably less than $311,000 is what you're going to be owing in 15 years. Okay. So now what's your equity? Your current equity, even today, if you took the $100,000 loan today, your current equity is $624,000. Your equity at the end of 15 years is over $800,000. So your equity continues to grow despite the fact that you have taken $100,000 out of your property. Now, if you don't need $100,000, maybe you just need $1,000 or $1,500 a month to help support you can take income like that out of your property. You don't have to take a big check. You can take income like that. So those are some of the reasons to take equity out of your property, and those are some of the different ways you can take equity out of your property. Do we have any questions before we bring up the mayor, who's been waiting very patiently? Yes.
Are there tax implications for taking that 1,500?
No, there's no tax. It's tax-free.
It's your money.
Yeah, you're taking your money out of your houses. No taxes on it.
On pocket.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a principal residence, so you wouldn't be paying tax on that anyway. I mean, I'm not going to count it. I'm not going to get into that. I did want to mention a few people that are in the room. We have some members from the Wasaga Society for the Arts who are here and who we've arranged to use this space. Unfortunately, there's no pictures on the wall today. I don't know. But anyway, we have Ryan Johnson is here from the Wasaga Society for the Arts, and Michael is here. Michael, sorry, what's your last name again?
Jared.
Michael Jarrett is here. He's also on the board of the Wasaga Society for the Arts. I want to mention my good friend Jerry Hogenhout, who has done many broadcasts with me over the past. He's my accountant, and we do a lot of things talking about investments. In a couple of months, we will be doing a session on apartment REITs and taxes and different things. That'll be in a couple of months. I also want to thank my wife, who's the catering manager. Yeah, yeah, and I hope I didn't miss anybody. Lots of good friends and supporters. So thank you all for coming. Is there one more question before we bring up the mayor on the mortgages? You all know where to reach me. Here's my business cards. I can also share these slides with you if you're interested, but more importantly, I can help you work up a scenario on your property if you want to see because it's age dependent, right? The amount of money you can take out of it if it's a reverse mortgage. But again, lots of different options depending on your situation. That 19 years experience arranging mortgages. So don't hesitate to give me a shout.